colleagues in the House and thank them for the contributions that they make. Kapinga Medao. One of the things that you could assist your colleagues with, especially in the Botswana Congress Party, is that they must inform themselves and inform themselves sufficiently on any matter that they want to raise. That's the first thing. The second is that whenever, and you know in law, when you raise questions of somebody else's credibility and you impugn, you also lay yourself open to your own credibility being placed under the spotlight. And so I see the frivolity with which issues of credibility are raised in this House, and others' credibility impugned by folks who themselves, if they were to be subjected to the most rudimentary scrutiny, they would fare so badly that they would not ever deserve to be taken seriously. And the third thing that we always look at, Komolao, is pretty much what the Speaker was raising, relevance. And that is why when you have a case before the court, you argue that case. Don't argue a different case. Don't bring submissions irrelevant to the matter under consideration. And we've been treated to exactly that in the submissions made by the eminent member. We are debating the Botswana Economic Transformation Program. He seized the opportunity to go off at a tangent and raise issues that are emotive, issues that in a different setting could make sense, but are absolutely irrelevant to the discussion that we're having. And so it also is painful when that is done by people that the country has invested so much in educating, and they have attained the highest levels in their chosen.
Procedure, Mr. Speaker.
It actually is painful.
Procedure, Honorable Dr. Ozwan.
Mr. Speaker, o hetsa go bua le go gakolola. His Excellency, His Excellency, Honorable Mr. President. E be re hela o hetsa go bua. Aba dira sone so se khalima. Ya ne kere Mr. Speaker. O se kwa ba tsietsega wa to ga tsediwa ke Mr. President. O tse pa me tota ka ke go itse. O mo khalemela. Ya leboga Mr. Speaker.
Yeah, Honorable Dr. Ozwan. Mr. President,
thank you very much. Cutting some underbrush.
Elucidation.
And focusing
Your Excellency.
The discourse. Thank you, ma'am.
Elucidation, Honorable Dr. Down.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Mr. President. Nyame ke re khakollo tsa gago, especially a bobedi le a boraro. Tota hela o se ka di lebisa ka konwe hela. O lebisa ntlo yotlhe gore ha o la khosiwa o itaela. A kere ya bohelo ya gone gore go ka pakwa le kwaleng. Tota a kere ma parlamenta ba na le di constituency. Ene ba le ka go tsenya mo teng. So o re khalemela hela rotlhe. Ka hanelo ka kwala gore tota hela tsepamang tlogala go tsenya di counseling. Le bone ba ka kwala tota ba go ga le tlhabu thata. Mr. President.
Thank you, ma'am. Making a kgothatsa tota ba ke dumelang gore thutuntsho le thutego ya bone e ba kantse gore ba ka kgona go supa tsela. Ke sone se ke no polang batho ba le babedi mo ntlong ye mme ke ne ke tsaka ke ka tsaya le ka ha ba ba rutilwe molao ba ba itseng gore ha re tsena go lekgotleng re tlogela go tlaopa ga re tsene mo tsheleng re lebagana re tlhomame le se se buiwang ke santha ke se lebaganya le mongwe le mongwe sa bobedi ke gore ha re bua dilotse re se karaba ra eteletsa go khoba go sotla go go nyenyehatsa ka gore ha o dira jalo o tswapola one molaetsa o tshwere sengwe se se botlhokwa se se ka reetsegang e le kgakololo e le tlhagiso se bo se timela mo modumong wa tshele le tlontlokwane ke sone se diagente di dirang jalo di lebagana le se se hapele ga tsone re bua ka Botswana Economic Transformation Program e leng the sheet anchor, the foundation of how we will transform this country in the next 5 years and beyond. The realities which we face, which are sufficiently canvassed in the document, which I hope has been read and read thoroughly. The income of this country comes from known sources. This has been a monosectoral economy dependent predominantly on diamonds. This is a reality. We can't run away from it. These diamonds have experienced a serious downturn by up to 60%. That's a huge loss in revenue to a monosectoral economy dependent on that commodity. Fact. The country's economy, therefore, the revenue sources have diminished considerably. The second revenue earner is tourism, itself making a very modest contribution. Agriculture, which should ideally be making a bigger contribution, is sitting at about 3% in terms of contribution to the GDP at this point. We can sit here and all articulate charters of aspirations. The real question here now is, how do we move from where we are as a country to where we believe we ought to be? We can argue and quarrel about where we are. We can also argue and quarrel about where we think the country ought to be. Where we are now, in the discourse that we are seized with, we must articulate a strategy, how we move from where we are to where we ought to be. The Botswana Economic Transformation Program is exactly that. It's an attempt to respond to that critical question. How do we move from being a monosectoral economy to a diversified one? How do we diversify? This is the question. To say agriculture can contribute this, mining can do this, this can... We've heard that. That's not the requirement of this discourse. Are we agreed on the fundamentals of how we move from where we are to where we ought to be? It's known. The question is, faced with the current constraints of a diminished source of income for the country, how do we then pay? How do we raise the revenue to pay those farmers? The sentimental offerings and platitudes about them needing to be paid are not going to help. Batswana go duela ga gona one madi a ka ba duela ra hetla jang ra tsa kae re ta ka ditogamano dihe tsa go batla one madi a gore re duele balemi ba ba kolotwang khanyi ha ba garo maybe le ha re tsena gone ga gona yo ka gaisang yo mongwe a re tswere haleng rotlhe ka go batla tharabololo balemi ba ba kolotwa 400 million pula 400 million ha re emente ba duelwa jang. This is what this program seeks to articulate: a sustainable basis for a reconstruction of this economy in order to be able to sustain. Goromente ha re tsamante o kolota botlhe ba ba kileng ba tlisa ditirelo, contractors ba kolota up to 15 billion ha re ementeng gone 15 billion pula. Re ba duela jang, re ba duela leng, madi a teng a tswa kae? This is the problem. Me re rentse re akanya gore tshwantse re duele balemi ba re itse gore le lona re tshwantse re le duele ba ga rona, re le duele sitting allowance, re le duele di salary tsa lona ka gore le theogetse go loga. Ha re ka ska ra ba ra le duela kgwedi ya hita le tlo tsogologa gone jaanong e sa tlo le tsogologela ba le baemetsi go itsogologela lona. Le sa dire phoso go tshwanetse e le tshwanelo ya lona. Jaanong itseng ba ga rona gore puso e mekamekane le go thomamisa gore babereki ba duelwa. Go ntse go le thata jaaka go le thata, babereki ba duelwa, la tlamelwa, mme ebile le tsotlhe tse di tlhokang gore di dirwe di tshwanetse di dirwe. Re di dira jang ba kaolengwe? Kgwetlo ya rona e ha rotlhe ka gore ha itsholelo e ka phutlhama e re phutlhamela rotlhe, ga gona yo tlong go halola. Jaanong a re thulanyeng ditlhogo re tlhoagetse, re batle gore ditharabololo re di bona jang. National Economic Transformation Program e lemogile so sa ntlha ditsamaiso gore ke tse di diang tsa madiadia tse o helelang go buiwa go sa diragadiwe. This program says we are now going to implement its execution. What are we executing? It has outlined 186 projects, not ideas, projects, things that have to be implemented in order for jobs to be generated, for the economy to grow. Are we satisfied with the projects that are outlined in the program? Are there any more that we think ought to have been included that have been left out? What would be the impact of those that we think have been left out in the whole scheme of things? However, to the creative industry, it has huge potential. But what do these folks need? They need money from where? From government. Does government have the money? No. So our task is to find the money. Where do we get the money to raise the profile and the contribution of the creative industry to the economy? They generate content. What happens to that content? If that content is to be used on BTV, it has to be paid for. Who must pay for that content? Government. Where are the resources to pay for that content? Non-existent. So are we going to start singing, presenting some song and dance about paying them? No. We know they have to be paid. We know they are capable of generating brilliant content. That is not the challenge. The challenge is where do we get the money to pay them? And that is why fairly recently, Cabinet made a pronouncement, much along the lines of jerking up the creative industry, to say, at least from the alcohol levy, let's appropriate 200 million, because it's a receivable, it's money that is coming. Let's take 200 million and apply it to content acquisition, to pay these creatives, to empower them. This is a tangible intervention. You may disagree with it, you are free to. You are free to critique it, but it is the beginning of some faltering steps, perhaps in the direction of providing concrete solutions that sound in the welfare of these creatives, 200 million set aside. But the dire content, humorous, relaxed, entertaining, educative, informative, that speaks to the drug problem, that speaks to gender-based violence arising from substance and alcohol abuse, that speaks to substance abuse itself. Project. Ubona hare o mana nna le lona ba ga rona kana rotlhe a re o maneng ka gore a mme 200 million o lekane ha sa lekana re ka mo oketsa re tse re kae re gakologelwa gore mo go one alcohol levy tswantse re tlhome rehabilitation centers. A lot of our people die from drug and substance abuse because they have no easy, quick access to rehabilitation. Those who are lucky are able to go to South Africa. Ke sone se ba health. Ba simolotseng thulaganyo refurbishing a wing of Sekgoma Memorial in Serowe to at least be able to accommodate 50 people for rehabilitation. It's an ongoing program. Funded from, or it should be funded from, the alcohol levy. Jano, hariri, the creatives ba ngongorega re duduetsa. Bone ba ta ngongorega, ba ba ta runa ba etele dipele, re batlele ka ditharabollo. Maybe le ha gongwe re kopane le bone re bue tharabollo. This is what is painfully missing from the discourse, both on the floor of this house and outside. I listen. I get tortured because I'm yearning for solutions. I'm listening. What is Botswana saying about solving this problem? Botswana is busy throwing banter. I'm just giving it as an example, not to attack you, my brother. But at your level, as a leader, your role is to come up with solutions. Otori, hormenteo, khana tezo, o khanne, re mohile tharabololo ke ye. Ye rarabolang bothata jo jana ka selekanyo se se kana. O e khanne, o bo ya ko bathong o ba raya. Because our people are very smart, eh? O bona ha ba tsamayang teng Batswana. Ha gona le sengwe se ba se bihela. Ke motho yo kgalang, a sotla, a taupa, a khoba, a sa tleka tharabollo. They hate that person. And they demonstrated it in 2024. I'm telling you they'll demonstrate it again in 2029. I can assure you. 2029 is going to be fought around delivery. For us, for this government, for you folks, delivery, nothing else. Don't go out there and make noise and talk and shout. I don't make noise. I'm focused
President.
on delivery. Sorry.
Clarification.
Sorry. Delivery. Error. Lucas.
Clarification of Lucas.
Error.